As I was listening for what to share today, the word unprecedented kept coming to me. And that word, it seems, has been used quite a bit in recent years, and I would say rightly so. And I want to acknowledge the unprecedented turn of the spiral up, of course, and note that this means while we may see circumstances that resemble what we have encountered previously, we are in fact in a new world in some sense, and we are responding differently, and our inner architecture and consciousness is being upgraded. I was also seeing in my mind's eye earlier how the sun rises, and where I am, there's an ocean, and I watch the sun rise over the ocean. So there is a specific moment when the brightness of the globe of the sun breaches the horizon, and then that is dawn. I have been feeling that this new day dawning actually started dawning in 2023. And depending on where one stands and local topography and such, sunrise seems to occur at different times. And I know that for many of us, we've been through some challenging times in the last few years that have prepared us for now. And I honor that there are alpha testers and beta users of the new human operating system. And I also want to acknowledge that in my work and in my friendships, I've observed just about everyone having a profound and sometimes very difficult transition. So I talk about a turn of the spiral up and the beauty of this moment. And at the same time, I must honor the challenges and the difficulties, particularly as so much that has been in shadow is coming to light. And that's an inherently good process, but very difficult. And for me, Unity Earth has consistently been luminous and has consistently sounded the note of unity for as long as I've known Ben and many of you. So let me speak a little bit about what I'm seeing. Many will speak to the astrological significance of this day and this time, and I will speak from a little bit of a different angle. And if you hear background noise, I apologize. I'm outside. So there's empowerment that comes from clear seeing of the deep patterns and dynamics of life and human evolution. And human evolution right now is going, in a sense, post-ego. But I mean that very specifically, where ego is the defended sense of self and identity. And I've been feeling that in the heart, in the collective heart of us all, which is the one heart, there has been a shift. And people who haven't necessarily been doing spiritual work are having healings and insights. And this is very encouraging to me because it means we don't have to force the change. It's already happening from within. And we don't need to and probably ought not to force anything, particularly when it's what wants to happen. So when I feel into the timeline, last year was a time of much happening below the surface, invisibly, while what was visible was extremely disheartening for so many of us. And this year, we begin to see the fruits of our labor last year and for many years. 2027 is when the new operating system lands for all of us. Doesn't mean everyone installs the operating system upgrade on the first day, but let's say August 2027, because that's what keeps ringing true in my heart, is when the apple of God shifts to whatever the next major upgrade is, whatever we want to call that. I would call it a unitive operating system, in fact. And we are shifting into harmony and planetary consciousness, as has been named. Sometimes there is specific corroboration, and there's a system called human design, which many of you may be familiar with. And the person who brought that through very honestly said that the knowledge that is embodied in human design expires in 2027. And how can that be? Because the rules that seem to govern human behavior and ego structure will not apply going forward. So we're in the tail end of the outgoing paradigm and operating system, and already partly into the new. Now, Unity Earth has been operating in this new OS for 10 years, and many of us perhaps even longer than that. And it's hard to be a forerunner. Hopefully, we're feeling enough confirming evidence, and we're feeling the wind at our backs in significant measure such that we can proceed with more and more energy and knowing that this works. And we've heard spiritual sayings like, what you believe, you perceive. And I would like to add one, which is, what we know is so. So in the strength of our knowing, based on the clear seeing of the pattern and the dynamics of life and human evolution, when we know it beyond doubt, that, I'll say that frequency or that room of reality in the mansion is energized. The signal strength of the healed world is increased by our knowing that we actually can't fail in this endeavor. And when I talk about unity, and I probably need to go in a couple of minutes, it looks like time has flown. Let me just make one additional point. The unity is a unity of outer and inner. And one of the most beautiful features of Unity Earth that I have had the joy to witness consistently is the convergence of those on the more contemplative path and those on the more activist path, engaged in the world situation. And these can only be one. In a conversation not too long ago, I said to Ben, the outer is the deep inner. And I want to make that stronger. I want to say that the outer is the deepest inner, and the inner is the deepest outer. And our contemplation and our activism are so deeply interwoven. And to embody that and to have a big tent that holds it all, like Unity Earth and the interspiritual movement, is just delicious. So, having said interspiritual, let me say one of the early flowers of interspirituality, Swami Vivekananda, said something toward the end of the collected works, which I read 16 years ago. So I can only paraphrase now. But to go all the way in or all the way out arrives at the same result. So again, this integration of the inner and the outer work. And let us go all the way in this mission. We can only go all the way. There's no stopping short of unity. Unity, the full unity and the full flowering of diversity within unicity, which is the unbreakable, unshakable oneness that always is. And as we choose and enact unity, we open to the experience and the direct knowing of unicity. So let us go all the way. We cannot fail, and there is much beauty in store. Thank you.